This is another episode in the ongoing masterclass for the management and treatment of clinically significant vitreous opacities, otherwise known as eye floaters. I am Dr. James Johnson, also known as the Floater Doctor, and I've been treating eye floaters exclusively in my practice since 2007. Today I'm going to talk about the 4 overlapping mechanisms to ensure the precise focus of your laser on the targeted floaters, with the ultimate goal of reducing risk of injury, especially to the natural lens or the retina. So let's get started. The first mechanism is simply stereoscopic binocular vision. We use our 2 eyes to gauge depth. Now we are talking about sometimes microns of difference in that anterior-posterior location, but I couldn't imagine doing this one-eyed. I'm always worried about injuring my eyes just in case. So yeah, we use 2 eyes. They're 2 oculars. They converge together. And the problem, though, is you're trying to get this converged vision in through a small aperture. In an ideal case, that pupil diameter will be large, with clear cornea, clear lens, no intraocular lenses, just a really nice clear view for a mid-position floater. That's the ideal. But as you know, we don't get the ideal very often. So there might be a previous history of corneal refractive surgery, muckety-muck. There might be intraocular lenses, especially multifocal lenses, small anterior capsulotomies, small posterior capsulotomies, previous radiokeratotomy. It might be a whole slew of reasons, and working past that true aperture or functional aperture can be very, very, very challenging. So, that's the baseline using stereoscopic binocular vision. But we have better mechanisms in place that will augment that. So the second is, and very importantly, this is sort of the absolute way to ensure focus, is the focusing beams. The YAG, the ophthalmic YAG lasers have this cone-shaped energy profile emanating out of the laser cavity. And it's invisible, but it's about 16 degrees of cone angle. That doesn't change much from laser manufacturer to laser manufacturer. With the lasers I use, we have these static lasers that run along the top and along the bottom of that cone, and where those two come together is the absolute focus of that laser. As I'm jogging that back and forth, you can see those beams bounce around each other. When they're right on top of each other, right on the anterior surface of that floater, that's where you are. But that ensures focus on the floater. How do you know where you are in that anterior-posterior position within the vitreous? That's super important. So in addition to that, number 2, number 3 is a narrow depth of field plane. So if we have our focus energy, delivering energy right here, superimpose upon that is this narrow depth of field plane, which means it's like a camera. A small f-stop, f1.8, will have a wide open aperture, and that gives you a narrow depth of field. That's nice to have the background blurry, the face sharp focus. It's a nice photographic technique. And in fact, in a tabletop microscope, you might remember from school, you can focus in the different layers of that pond water that the teacher put a drop on your slide there, right? So same here, we have this narrow focusing beam. So if the details of the floater are in great detail, but the background is just this diffuse, blurry, orangey background, and you're not seeing any details of the lens, you're probably in a safe place. If, on the other hand, you've pushed everything further back, and that focal plane is back here, and your laser is focused back here, you'll see the details of the floater as well as the details of the retina. You'll see the retinal blood vessels and the pigmentation and all that. That's your warning sign. That's your red flag. Like, you're a little bit too close. You're too close to the retina. You need to back that off there. So that's a very important aspect. And lastly is the slit beam illumination into that space. The slit beam biomicroscope that is standard in ophthalmology and optometry is the basis for these slit beam illumination of the vitreous, right? So we have this light tower that moves on an axis, and we can move that from one side to the other side to the one side to the other side. Now, not all lasers will allow you to fire the laser with that light source coaxially right down the middle. This is the Ultra Q model. I have the Ultra Q reflex as well. The big difference, the big marketing difference between the two is that the Ultra Q reflex allows you to fire that laser coaxially. This is a big warning. This is a big caveat. You need to really be aware of this. When you have the light source coming in off to the side obliquely, you're basically making a virtual slice of light through this dark gelatinous fluid. And as that light passes through, you're going to get some reflection back here to the observer back here. You're going to catch some reflection off the posterior surface of the lens there, and you're going to see that reflection. You're going to get some glow and reflection off of the retina back there, and then your floater hopefully will be somewhere in the middle there. And then just visually, you can kind of gauge, well, the distance between the lens to the floater is this, and from the floater to way back there is this, and that's kind of in the middle part of that vitreous. If on the other hand, it's further back there, and it's a long ways back, and you're seeing, this distance is very, very short. Again, you're too close to the retina, or vice versa, you're too close to the lens. Now, that, and I'll represent this here. Sorry about this cartoonish representation, but I kind of threw this together here. If you were the observer looking into that eye, and this represents the slice of light, that slit beam illumination, you're going to get reflection off of the lens to the floater, and from the floater to the back of the eye here. This floater is pretty close to the lens there. Well, you might want to confirm that. You flip your light over to the other side. I didn't put a little floater there, but you get the idea. You can kind of look at it this way, look at it this way. What happens though when you're looking right down the middle there? When you have that light source coaxially like this, you lose that point of reference. Is it here? Is it here? Is it here? Is it here? I don't know. You can't do that coaxially. And what I find interesting is 10 years ago or so, when LX started promoting their newer model, the Ultra Q Reflex model, they came up with a 10-page guideline, procedure guide for treating floaters. And they imply that you really need that coaxial or on-axis illumination to be able to visualize further back. I kind of disagree. I spent the first 14 years of my practice not having that coaxial firing available to me. And yeah, it's frustrating and it's difficult to treat posteriorly, but I took it like a man. I just dealt with it, and that's what I got. And interestingly enough, now that I do have the Ultra Q Reflex model, I rarely use that coaxial feature. I don't like it. You lose that sense of certainty of where you're located. And I just thought it was interesting that in this procedure guide, they say that coaxial or on-axis illumination permits visualization from the lens to the retina and is essential in order to visualize vitreous strands or opacities located in the middle and posterior vitreous. I have used it. There have been a few times where it was necessary to use it, but I'm always going to be very, very hesitant to use that. And I have a lot of experience with the lasers, and I have a very good sense of that three-dimensional spatial awareness. I just think that it adds a risk that if you can avoid that risk, avoid it. 4 mechanisms: stereoscopic vision, the focusing beams that either rotate dynamically or are static, but that gives us our absolute focal point, the narrow depth of field plane, and lastly, the slit beam illumination. All 4 are very important. You use them all, and you just use them without having to stop and separate them out. They're all conjoined with each other. I hope this is helpful. I have lots of ideas for more videos like this. If you found it helpful, you might have learned a little something, a little nugget of something, or you like to just collaborate by just sharing your comments in the comment section. I appreciate that. I'm not saying this is the only way to do things. I'm just saying this is my way, and I got a little experience. But I'm open to learning new things, and if you have a hint or a tip or a trick or an observation that you have found helpful, share it. Let's comment on it. Other than that, if you would like to see more of these and get notified, you can hit the subscribe button or just gently tap it. You don't have to hit it. You can also tap the notifications bell, and you'll be notified when more of these come out. So anyways, thanks for watching, and I look forward to doing more of these, and keep treating floaters.